יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. לה 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 שלום שלום במרומה הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. לה 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 La 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 Amen. La 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 טוב ומנעים הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. Test. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. To those of you here in our sanctuary, Temple Beth Or in La Mirada, welcome. It's glad to be able to welcome you back and to actually see faces in the chairs in our congregation. It's been a long time, and so it's great to welcome you all back. I want to welcome to our bima this evening as well, Cantor Mark Perman, who is, in addition to being a Cantor, is a classmate of Cantor Ken Jaffe. Cantor Jaffe has the Friday night off, as does Dr. Ray Irwin. And so we're in for a very special treat this evening because we're going to have a bit of what we call almost a Shabbat Friday Night Live, in that Cantor Perman will not only be our cantor, but also our accompanist. So we will have a little double duty going on here this evening as we get a few things adjusted here. And so it's grateful, Cantor Perman. It is wonderful to welcome you to the bima.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And he brought with him a very special friend this evening. Elizabeth is joining him in the front row as a guest of our congregation. But more importantly, I learned just the other day, although I don't know if it happened just the other day, but I learned that it happened just the other day, a recent excitement in Cantor Perman and Elizabeth's life in that they have recently gotten engaged. And so, if you will forgive the off-key thing, Siman Tovu, Mazel Tovu, Mazel Tovu, Siman Tovu, Siman Tovu, Mazel Tovu, Mazel Tovu, Siman Tovu, Siman Tovu, Mazel Tovu, Mazel Tovu, Siman Tovu, Yehi Lanu. We'll end it there, because it goes on forever. You know, we can do that all night.
Yeah, thank you. What a surprise.
You're welcome. Congratulations to you all. That's wonderful. And have you set a date for the wedding?
Not yet. About 5 years. No.
Okay.
She's telling me what we're doing.
All right. That's a very good start, Cantor Perman. That's excellent. Yes, dear, is how you get through the ensuing years. We want to acknowledge a number of exciting events taking place. Of course, Monday is Memorial Day, and more on that later in our service. The office will be closed. Services next Friday at 7:30. Here as well, please make your reservations, and also streaming on our YouTube channel. Next Sunday, June the 6th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Links have gone out, and links will go out again. The Whittier Area Interfaith Council is sponsoring its panel presentation part 2, wherein, oh goodness gracious, I'm blanking on everybody's name. So it will be myself, a representative from the Muslim community and from the Christian community. We have a series of questions we will be answering beginning at 4 o'clock next Sunday, June the 6th. It will be streamed. It's a YouTube event. You need to register. So links have gone out and links will go out again. Be sure you register for that. I want to remind everybody we are still living in LA County. We are still observing LA County Health Department ordinances with regards to in-person worship services. So please do keep your masks on. At the end of the service, please wait for your row to be dismissed. We will be dismissing by rows out to the front door. Our flight attendant for this evening's service is Eileen McNella. She will designate to you which rows may leave. You will just walk out the front door. Please wait till you are dismissed. Let's try to conduct ourselves orderly as if we are on a Southwest flight. We will be exiting those doors. On your way out, be sure to pick up your Oneg to-go bag. There are goodies in there. You can have cookies and juice and all those good things. And challah. 2 challahs because you get a double portion on Shabbat. All right, I think that's it for our those kind of announcements. We also want to acknowledge our flowers, our virtual flowers this evening are sponsored by David and Sandy Scharf, who are here with us this evening. It is so good to be able to do this. I don't even have to send this to you in your mail. David and Sandy, if you all will please stand up for a moment. We would like to present to you and to honor you with your certificate, which you will get at the end of the service. Our world famous, these are world famous Cantor Perman. We created these lovely little certificates for birthdays and anniversaries. And so for David and for Sandy. Mishaberach avotenu vimotenu, may God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel and Leah, bless David and Sandy Scharf on the occasion of their 37th wedding anniversary. May the love that binds them continue to be strong and lasting. May their hearts be filled with patience and understanding for one another. May their home continue to be a sanctuary built on devotion to each other, to God, to Torah, and to Israel. Celebrated this 18th day of Sivan, the 28th day of May, signed by myself, our cantor, and our president, Dina Jastrock. And so, guys, we will present this to you at the end of the service, but we're going to join with Cantor Perman in the singing of our Shehechianu blessing, our prayer of gratitude, giving thanks to God for giving us life, sustaining us, and enabling us to reach this beautiful occasion.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, לזמן הזה.
David and Sandy, mazel tov to you both. Mazel tov to you both on this wonderful occasion. And I believe we have some Shabbat greetings from congregants this evening. Shabbat greetings from Ted and Noel Singer, who are here with us this evening. From Rita and Bob Rubin. Rita's with us with her daughter Sue. So thank you all, David, very much. David and Sandy Scharf as well. Thank you, guys. And Jeff and Wilma Shear. And I wish to acknowledge that Jeff is a past president of our congregation. Thank you all for your financial support of our Shabbat greetings. Thank you very, very much. Again, for those of you joining us on our Zoom stream, we have not yet worked out our technical issues with regards to being able to include slides. We hope to be able to do that over the course of the summer. By the time we get to August, we hope to have that worked out and be able to include slides for the services that we will be streaming. In the meantime, however, I ask you to take this opportunity, make sure you've got some candles set up at home, perhaps a little bit of Kiddush juice or wine or beverage of your choice. We'll have the Kiddush at the very end of our service and the candles in just a moment. Our service continues on page 6 in our prayer books. You will find the prayer books under the seats in front of you or under your seat if you are brave enough to sit in the front row. On the top of page 6, we enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured as a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to life of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary and gather in our virtual spaces to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of this past week, let these drop at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Our service continues on page 24 with the singing of Shalom Aleichem, an opportunity for us to acknowledge the various messengers, those of flesh and blood, those of memory, those of spirit who have traveled with us this past week. Page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hashar, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borechem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. אתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלכי המלכים, קדוש ברוך הוא.
Beautiful, wonderful. We continue with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. I invite us to turn back to page 3. I also need to acknowledge and extend our well wishes for a refuah shlema to our president, Dina Jastrock, who is feeling under the weather, which is why she was not here tonight to give us those lovely announcements. In my confusion of having to fill in for announcements, I neglected to acknowledge that at the beginning of our service. So Dina, we certainly hope you are feeling better soon, and I hope to see you next Friday. Let you handle the announcements. A little too much clutter on the lectern this evening, so thank you. Feel better soon. On page 3, O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and into our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May their worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love as we kindle our Shabbat lights.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We praise you, Adonai, our God, source of all being, who calls us to holy acts through mitzvot and inspires us to kindle these lights of Shabbat. Our service continues on page 146. No, don't get excited. We're not done yet. On page 146, with the words of our Baruch Hu, I invite us to rise as we are able for our call to worship.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth.
Umaveyom umevilayla, umavdil ben yom uven layla, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Hamahari V'Aravi.
Our service continues on page 148. We may be seated.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu le'madeta Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu u'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nizmach b'divrei toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki him chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla nege yomam v'layla v'yavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev amo Yisrael.
I invite us to rise as we are able. We're going to try something a little different with this evening's Shema. Cantor Perman had asked me about this. I'm familiar with it. We've done this in a number of other settings. But there is a way of doing the Shema that's a little more, how shall we say, attentive? Meditative? Why don't you finish explaining?
So this is from the Jewish Renewal Movement, and it helps us to really fully experience the words of the Shema. Sometimes we rush right through it, and we go, Shema, Yisrael, Adonai, and half the time we just do it mechanically. So for this particular time, we're going to take a breath before each word and exhale on each word. So Shema, all the way through. As our breath finishes, we start again with the next word. Yisrael. That way we can hear and experience each word for what it's worth. Shema, listen, Yisrael, the people Israel, Adonai, my God, Eloheinu, our God, Adonai, God is one. So we can close our eyes too if you'd like. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
We may be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha Vishinantam levanecha v'divarta ba'am b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvelechtecha v'derech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Our service continues on page 151. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart, but there is good enough to exalt the soul. And when will redemption from that evil come? When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt, and our people saw the power of the Most High. And we learned that God's presence redeems time and event. And so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom, with the words of our Micha Mocha on page 152.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי אנו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב גאל ישראל.
We continue on the next page. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadow of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all that we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. V'al Yerushalayim v'al kol amo. Yerushalayim shalom, ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo, ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo
We take the idea of a weekend for granted in modern life. It's just part of our flow. Saturday, Sunday, that's the weekend. But we have to remember this has been a modern acceptance of a very ancient and very radical idea. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors brought the idea of Shabbat to humanity. And it was not all that well received. Indeed, we were blamed by the Egyptians and the Greeks for being weak, unable to work 7 days a week, that we need to take a day off every 6 days in order to recuperate, unlike everybody else. In the ancient world, the only people who had leisure were the kings and pharaohs, queens, the upper class, the priests, maybe, the Kohanim, sure. The average person? No. You worked for the king, for the pharaoh, for the queen, until you died. Judaism brings this idea that human beings are not beasts of burden, that 1/7 of our lives is spent focused on the spiritual. And that's what we do. And that's what we brought to the world. Now, yes, this is accepted. But thousands of years ago, this was a radical thought, a radical idea that people deserve a day of rest, a day to be with family, to be with friends, to be with their God. Vishamru, when we keep Shabbat, in a way, Shabbat keeps us. Indeed, Achad Ha'am wrote that more than Israel having kept the Shabbat, it is the Shabbat that has kept Israel. Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש Shabbat vayinafesh, Shabbat vayinafesh, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. I like that, clapping. That's good.
All right, yeah, we clap in our congregation. We talked about that last week when we were able to come back together again, that we clap.
It doesn't spread COVID.
Yeah, that's right. It does not spread COVID. Right. Everybody clap with your own hands, please, all right? Or with your own household hands, okay? Don't reach across the aisles. We continue with the words of our tefillah, the Amidah portion of our worship services. What I love most about Hebrew prayer, Jewish prayer, is that the verb to pray, lihitpalel, is a reflexive verb. More than asking God for things, we say these prayers to challenge us. We speak of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Rachel, who lived over 4,000 years ago in times of great scarcity, when pandemics, when droughts, when plagues readily affected them. And yet, they maintained their humanity. They found a way to rise to those challenges and never lost hope in a better tomorrow. We who live with tremendous comfort and medical technology that is able to provide us some safety from this COVID-19 pandemic, they had no idea that we would be able to respond to a plague in such a way. And the prayer challenges us. Where is our humanity, we who live in comfort? Where is our hope for a better tomorrow, we who live in this incredible luxury compared to our ancestors? Lahit Palel, our prayers. This is a reflexive exercise. I invite us to rise as we are able, as we continue with the words of our tefillah.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לפשעי עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בחום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We may be seated. Our service continues on page 160. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfills its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And we continue on page 163. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise. For the desire in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For life and nature, harmony and beauty. For the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot. We continue on page 164.
Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Ata Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki Ata Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. B'tov b'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Just as we pray for shalom, for peace, for wholeness, for all of us in our community, in our city, state, indeed in our country and in our world, so too do we want to include those whose sense of shalom, sense of wholeness, sense of well-being has been disturbed, perhaps even shattered by the challenges that they are facing. In a moment, Cantor will lead us in the Mishaberach blessing, which you can find in your prayer books on page 253, the Mishaberach by Debbie Friedman. And I invite you during the musical interlude between the paragraphs to share aloud the name of a loved one. Thus we might bring them here into this space and into our hearts at this time. Indeed, may all who are facing challenges to their health and their well-being, all who are facing illnesses, all who are struggling to regain that sense of shalom and wholeness, may they be blessed on their journey, a journey that will bring them to a refuah shlema, to a return to the wholeness they seek, the shalom that they desire. Baruch atah Adonai rofei hacholim. We praise you, O God, who helps us bring hope and healing to those who are in need. And let us say, Amen.
Mishaberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit,
we prepare for a very special moment. Words of prayer silenced for a moment. As we sit and reflect upon the words that we've shared, the melodies that we have heard, just to close our eyes for a minute and to be with our thoughts. So often we are defined by what we do, the tasks we have to accomplish during the day, the things that must get done, the chores that must be completed, the tasks that must be checked off. But in a worship service, and especially on Shabbat, we have a chance to simply be, to be human beings and not human doings. To bring us into this time of quietude and reflection, I shared this thought. I need strength, humility, courage, and patience. Humility to assess my own worth, courage to rise above defeats, patience to cleanse myself of imperfection, and wisdom to learn and live by our sacred teachings. Oh God, help me not to be discouraged by my failings. Let me take heart from all that is good and noble in my character. Keep me from falling victim to cynicism. Teach me sincerity and enthusiasm. Endow me with perception and courage that I may serve others and you with compassion and with love. We take this moment, perhaps to take a deep breath and just to be for this moment.
Yiur leratzon imre fi vehegyon lipi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, God, my rock and my redeemer. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Wonderful, Cantor Perman. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of our services this Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Mazel tov again to you and Elizabeth.
Thank you.
May the wedding plans go without complications.
Yeah, right.
And to our technical trio, to David Youngman, Chris Jastrock, and Phil Carey, Thank you both so much for continuing to enable our services to be streamed to our internet audience, which comes from across the world. If you've looked at our webpage, you've had a chance to see that we've got people coming in from South America, places in Europe, places in Asia even, indeed. So it is indeed an exciting opportunity to move Temple Beth Or in La Mirada to the entire world. So thank you guys very much for your technical expertise.
Let me also thank Cantor Jaffe for inviting me to do this for him on his day off. I
Yes.
really appreciate it. He's been a colleague and friend for 28 years.
That's when you two were studying together, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Hebrew Union College. We went to Israel together, and both cantorial students wet behind the ears, and now we're pros.
And now you're pros. Absolutely. Indeed, thank you. I'm grateful for Cantor Jaffe for finding you and recruiting you for our service. Thank you. To our accompanist, Dr. Ray Irwin, we wish him a happy Memorial Day weekend. To Cantor Jaffe as well. And of course to Dina Jastrock, our president. Feel better. I look forward to having you next week to do the announcements. So this is Memorial Day weekend, and contrary to the sales and all of those opportunities, Memorial Day is really a very important holiday for us. One that I think has been a little bit lost and tarnished in our commercial society. It originated not as a Memorial Day, but rather as a decoration day. This was first proclaimed by General John Logan in 1868 to honor the soldiers who died during the American Civil War. This incredibly devastating war, Americans fighting Americans, took more than 620,000 American lives in the 1860s, more than World War I and World War II combined. It was particularly devastating to our country. Decoration Day became known as Memorial Day in a newspaper article written by General Marcus P. Miller, when he coined the phrase, a Memorial Day of the future for our fallen soldiers from across the United States who have fought and died in the Spanish War, in Cuba, Puerto Rico, as well as the Philippines. That was in the end of the 1800s. From there, it gradually evolved into the holiday that we have today, this last Monday in May, a time to set aside, to remember those men and women of our armed forces who have given their lives for our country and for its values, for our freedoms, for our liberties. And so I thought on this Memorial Day weekend we might spend a little bit of time reflecting on some of the Jewish soldiers who have given their lives for this, our country. Because Jews have fought in every war this country has fought, including the Revolutionary War. It was estimated that there were about 100 Jews fighting with the colonists, with the Revolutionary Army and George Washington. Indeed, Jews have the distinction of being the first person killed during the first Jew killed during the Revolutionary War was Francis Salvador. He was a Sephardic Jew whose family had settled first in Georgia and then later in Charleston, South Carolina. He was the first Jew publicly elected to an office in this country. He was elected to the provincial Congress there in South Carolina. He died on August the 4th in 1776. Colonel William Thompson wrote about Mr. Salvador. Here Mr. Salvador received 3 wounds and fell by my side. We hoped to take care of him, but before we could find him in the dark, the enemy unfortunately got to him and scalped him. The Indians were fighting with the British in many of our early skirmishes, the Native Americans. He died at about 2:30 in the morning. And in 1950, for the 200th anniversary of the Charleston Synagogue there in Charleston, they erected a memorial to Francis Salvador, who was the first Jew to die in the American Revolution, with the following caption on this memorial. Born an aristocrat, he became a Democrat. An Englishman, he cast his lot with the Americans. True to his ancient faith, he gave his life for new hopes of human liberty and understanding. Not exactly a member of the military, but the second famous Jew we need to call to mind from our Revolutionary War is none other than Chaim Solomon. Chaim Solomon basically funded the Revolutionary War, raising over $620,000 in 1776 dollars. So we're talking millions, if not billions, of dollars being raised. Indeed, George Washington was strapped with finances and unable to finance, having spent the $600,000 that had been raised, and was not going to carry about the Yorktown campaign because he had nothing to pay the soldiers or to buy the weapons. Chaim Solomon raised the additional $20,000 very quickly and led George Washington to the Yorktown campaign, which was a significant turning point for those of us who are Revolutionary War buffs. The Civil War also had Jews fighting on both sides. There were estimated maybe 7,000 Jews fighting for the Union Army and an additional 3,000 Jews fighting for the Confederate Army. Indeed, the first Jewish chaplain was appointed during the Civil War. Congress had instructed the military to hire only chaplains of Christian faith. And it was representatives from the American Israelite Society who went and lobbied Congress to change that instruction. Actually, they lobbied President Abraham Lincoln, who then went and instructed Congress to strike that instruction. And so we have the first chaplain, Rabbi Jacob Frankel, who was then called Reverend. He was from Philadelphia's Rodef Shalom, and he was part of the Union Army. In the Confederate Army, we have some very famous Jews as well. Judah P. Benjamin was whom the Confederate President Jefferson Davis called the most capable statesman I ever knew. Judah P. Benjamin was a Secretary of State of the Confederacy at that time. There were several others, doctors who served in the Confederate Army, and indeed on a personal staff to General Robert E. Lee was a Jewish surgeon. In World War I, we had 250,000 Jews who served in the U.S. military during World War I. Around 3,500 of them perished in that war to end all wars. Which, of course, brings us to World War II. And as many as over 500,000 Jewish men and women served in the U.S. military. Well, the women, of course, not in the military. They were part of the waves and the WACs and the auxiliaries. But we had one of our highest-ranking Jews during this war, Major General Maurice Rose, who was a son and grandson of rabbis. He was a major general, and unfortunately was the highest-ranking American killed by enemy fire in the European theater. During World War II as well, we have the immortal chaplains, 4 of them, one of whom, Rabbi Dr. Alexander Good. Dr. Rabbi Alexander Good was one of the 4 chaplains. The troop transport ship, the Dorchester, had been torpedoed in February of 1943. And as the ship was sinking, a number of sailors were unable to find and to acquire life vests. 4 chaplains, Reverend George Fox, Rabbi Alexander Good, Father John Washington, and Reverend Kark Poling, stood on the deck of the sinking ship, took off their life vests, and handed them off to soldiers who would then be able to save. The 4 linked arms together and went down reciting psalms with the Dorchester. In the Korean police action, in the Vietnam War, in the Gulf Wars, Jews have served our country. Indeed, the Jewish War Veterans, the Jewish War Veterans Organization is the oldest veterans organization in the United States, founded after the Civil War by Jews, not only for Jews, but to provide support to all the veterans who were unable to find work even during those days. We come from a long line of people who have put their life on the line, not only in modern times, but going back to the time of King David, to King Solomon, the Maccabees. We come from a long line of people who have had to fight for freedom and for liberties. And it seems that on this Shabbat, this Memorial Day weekend, we pay special tribute to our fallen soldiers, men and women, throughout the decades and generations who have given their lives for this, our great country. I ask us to rise as we are able, as I conclude these remarks with a special El Melei Rachamim, a prayer for our military personnel who have paid the ultimate price for our freedoms and our liberties, having given their lives so that we might be free. El Melei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Amtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kadoshim Toharim Kazor Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmot Achenu Anshe HaChayil Asher He'eru Lamavet Nafsham Ba'ad Artsenu Ulecherut Ha'olam. God on high and in our hearts, grant reassuring peace beneath the cover of your sheltering wings to all the men and women who gave their lives in defense of our country and the freedom of the world. Shelter them among the righteous souls who are as radiant as the luminous firmament. Source of compassion, may we continue to feel their touch on our souls. Hasten the day when peace and security will prevail, when lo yisagoy el goy cherev lo yilmedu od milchama, when nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and there shall be no need to prepare for war. For the day come when the world will stand together as one. May the memory of our fallen brothers and sisters serve as an inspiration to us and as a comfort to all their loved ones. And let us say, Amen. We may be seated. I invite us to take time during this Memorial Day weekend to contemplate and to reflect. For those of you who are veterans amongst us, I thank you for your service to our country. For those of you who know a family whose sons and daughters are serving, give them a call. Let them know that you are grateful for their service. And if you know families whose sons and daughters have died in the military, perhaps maybe reach out to them and extend your condolence. This is what Memorial Day should be for us, an opportunity for us to recall, to give thanks, and to express our condolences to those who have given their lives for our country. With that, we move to the conclusion of our worship service. With the words of Our Aleinu, the adoration can be found on page 282 in our prayer books. And as we turn to page 282, I invite us to rise again as we are able.
עלינו לשבח, לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shamayim bioser haaretz umoshav yekaro bashamayim imahal ushchinatu zo b'gavhei meromim hu Eloheinu einod emet malkeinu efes ulato kakatuv b'torato וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
On page 287, thus it has been said, Adonai will be sovereign over all the earth. On that day, Adonai will be one, and God's name will be one.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, those who live on in our hearts and our memories, and in the place we call Olam Haba, the world to come. The words to our Kaddish can be found on page 294. As we call to mind those for whom we are observing the Shloshim period, the 30 days since their death, Anne Phillips, the half-sister of Joanne Kotkin, and Berta Ursus, the sister-in-law of Ellie Ursus. To those names, we link the names of those whose yahrzeits have occurred during this past week: Bernice Roth, Harold Sugarman, Bernard Lawrence Levoot, Harold Rotner, Samuel Levoot, Shirley Amador, Leah Ashman, Marion Feigenbaum, Charles Kravitz, Esther Milstein, Evelyn Wolf, Richard Wiley Loomis, Rabbi Chaim Asa, Josepha Kanap DeMarkovich, Joseph Schreier, Van P. Kennedy, Oscar Richards, Richard Scott Balaban, and Joan Roman. To those names, we link the names of those for whom we are observing the Kaddish period: Cleavon Steve Dyson, Harry Bass, Martha Manriquez, Enid Malkin, Phyllis Ryback Diamond, Marvin First, Robert Weber, Marvin J. Gilman, Elvia Amirez, Marlene Bilsma, Bernard Heber, Sam Ursus, Rosalie McKenzie, Hal Bruce Hamleben Jr., Joseph Rofe, Mildred Sane, Harold Weber, Karen Copeland, Rita Silverman, Sandra Pascas, Marlene Angel, Leslie Pascas Amador, Edith Zaro, Concha Chavez, John Young, Gerald Kotkin, Ross B. Shear, Jenna Gordon, Doug Austin, and Edith Chess. If there's a loved one whom you are remembering, I invite you to share that name at this time. To those that we have named aloud, and to those that we keep named in the quiet places of our hearts and memories, we link as well the names and memories of the men and women of our armed forces who have given their lives for our liberties and our freedoms, those who have given their lives here at home for our safety, the members of our police, our firefighters and other first responders, the members of the Israeli Defense Forces who have given their lives for the hope of peace. We add as well the over 580,000 Americans who have died from COVID-19. And just this past week, we add the names, if we had all those names, of the 775 Americans who have died from gun violence, including 10 most recently. Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. As we share together the words of our Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. B'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shemed Rabba Mevarach, Leolam Ulalmei Almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. May all of us who mourn, and all of us who are bereaved, may we find through God's eternal presence a source of strength, courage, and hope, above all a source of shalom, of peace. And let us all say, Amen. And to conclude our service this evening, a little bit of a patriotic song on page 377 in our prayer books. You can find the words to America the Beautiful. We're going to sing verse 1 and the refrain, verse 3 and the refrain, and verse 4 and the refrain. 1, 3, and 4, America the Beautiful on page 377.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Top of the next column.
Oh, beautiful for heroes proud in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriot's dream that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Cantor Perman, thank you very much for your beautiful music and playing and being with us.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Please wait to be dismissed by Rose, and remember to pick up your Shabbat to-go bag on the way out. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Stay safe. To those of you on YouTube, from all of us here at Temple Beth Or and La Mirada, Shabbat Shalom and Happy Memorial Day. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I totally forgot. Thank you, Cantor. I forgot. I'm so used to doing it at the beginning.
Yeah, me too. I've done that before. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziyat mitzrayim ki banu v'chata v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
And now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.